Sarah, is Bill going to join us?
You know, I'm not sure. I thought he said he would be joining. He wanted to meet at the
I saw that. Yeah.
airport himself, and otherwise I have not heard. We do have a quorum. And it's 1:30 now.
Okay, shall we go ahead and start?
Yeah.
Call the meeting to order of the Airport Development and Operating Committee regular meeting Wednesday, November 2nd, 2022 at 13:30 hours. I will go to roll call. I have a master list, but
John Arnold,
yes, I'm present. Thank you.
Richard Sires,
Present.
Bill Capron is not on the call at this time. Stuart Green is not on the call at this time. And Sarah Bisson, myself, is present.
Okay, so there are three of us present. We therefore have a quorum. Is there any modifications to the agenda from anyone? Richard, are you okay with it?
That's fine.
Okay, and I'm all right with it.
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
Okay, it's been moved.
Second.
Will you Thank you, Richard. It's been moved and seconded. The agenda is approved.
I don't believe we have any public comment for item number 4.
All right. So let's go ahead with 5 then on the project update.
Okay, so obstruction removal. Let me see. I'm going to share my screen here. Oh, Sarah, may I please share? I apologize. I didn't let you know ahead of time.
1 second.
And Sarah has told me that we've got the meeting for about a half hour. So we would have to cut the meeting short if we need to continue longer, and we can absolutely reschedule should we not get through the agenda.
Quick question then. Do you have any long agenda items?
No, sir.
Okay, well, good. Let's go ahead then. As soon as you can share.
So this is going to actually potentially feed into the budget update as well.
Right.
This is the obstruction removal construction grant. We are in week 12, and I have weekly reports that have been shared with from the architect and engineer firm, Century West. I will be providing those to Sarah so she can upload them onto FilePro. So we have one link to go access all of those. But essentially,
Okay.
they have removed all of the trees that have been identified from design. They have begun planting. We are in week 12. They had a slight delay with the second shipment of plants. So they received that shipment on the 27th. They are working through this week to finalize the planting of that final shipment of plants. They should be completed with the actual construction. So that included obstruction removal and replanting by the end of this month. What will happen next is they'll come back in spring and assess how those plantlings are doing. Just to ensure that they've taken root and are flourishing. They have only requested two payments to date. As you can see, we hold on to a slight retainage, but the total that we have expensed thus far out of the construction contract is $422,435 approximately. That was paid in October, so that will not be reflected in the most current expense report. We have moved on to a separate accounts payable system within the city. And so while we were working out the kinks and whatnot, it actually didn't meet the September deadline for the expense report. So it will be reflected in the next expense report. That's about 65% of the construction contract. And they're looking good out there.
Yeah, question, Sarah. What are they planting?
Pardon?
What are they planting?
Oh my goodness, they're honestly, I will provide you with the list of recommendations based off of the biologist from Washington State, and then the arborist that we were required to procure as well. But it's all native species that are low-lying shrubbery.
Okay, never mind. You don't need to supply me with anything. I was just asking out of curiosity. But if if the state experts are recommending low-lying shrubs, then that answers the question. Thank you.
Yes, sir. It's to be
Sarah,
proactive for years to come to ensure that we're not encroaching again, because FAA will not pay for that service again to remove
Yeah.
obstructions. Mhm.
Sarah,
Yeah, I
this,
got the
oh,
last
go ahead,
meeting.
Richard. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I got that from the the last meeting that the FAA for them, this is a one-time deal. So yeah, we
Yes.
don't want these trees growing back up again.
Yes, and what the and just to finalize that thought, John, very quickly. So because we are removing habitat essentially from the Johns River Wildlife Preservation Airport unit, we had to ensure that we were still protecting habitat there and preserving it, because that's what it's for. So they traded. I wouldn't say necessarily a 2-to-1 ratio, because each plant is different. But for example, if you remove maybe a giant tree, you have to replace it with 4 lower lying shrubs. A little bit beyond my pay grade
Okay,
of understanding, but I
Sarah-
I can explain it. Uh-huh.
John, yeah, question. The 65% expended, does that include through the final planting?
No, that's just approximately what has been expended based on these 2 invoices and the construction contract, I believe, of $651 or $653,000.
That's a nice price per tree, isn't it? Removed.
Yes, it's quite a bit. You know, and Quig Brothers came in significantly lower than all of the other bids. They were probably close to $100,000 less than the 2 other bids that we had received. So based on that information, we got a good deal.
Yeah, I remember. Okay, go ahead, Sarah.
That's all I have about the obstruction removal construction grant. Once I get those reports that are sent to FAA directly over to Sarah, she will provide me with a link, or at least tell me where to find those documents, so that way you guys can peruse them. They include some pictures as well. I know that Stu had asked that, and the consultant is taking pictures.
Okay,
You mostly just see the trucks out on the tarmac, but they're doing work out there.
okay.
Also, one further update is the runway will be closed through 6 p.m. on Friday, and that was to finalize that planting. We tried to avoid Fridays in most cases, but it behooved them to close until 6 p.m. on Friday this week, so they didn't have to come back next week for one more day.
Oh, that makes sense. Okay. So hangar development?
Hangar development. As we know, Patrick Welburn passed away. My condolences to his family and all of his family and friends. So that hangar will not be built. Jerry has had a hard time pinning down his builder. He is in position number 4, and he is considering enlarging his hangar space at this time. He had considered it to begin with. Well, let me back up. He proposed an original size. That's what we moved forward with FAA. We had both of those sites assessed for a certain square footage. Now that Pat's is not being erected in the 5th position, he could potentially expand his hangar a bit and build a larger size that he had originally wanted.
What's his last name?
That's Jerry Divis, Divis, and he has expressed interest in becoming involved with this committee. So I plan on reaching out to him. You know, he's an airport engineer, from my understanding. I mean, he has designed a lot of things out on airports, so it would be a nice asset to our community, our committee.
Okay. Richard, anything else on the project update?
Nope.
Okay, I'm clear on that too. Want to go to budget up? Yeah.
Yeah, the segmented circle, I went out there and had a look at that the other day, much bigger than I thought. But gonna be real tough to paint that until the grass gets mowed around it and weed whacked off of it. Not urgent, but that's on us, isn't it, John, that the
Not the,
volunteers are in charge of painting that thing?
well, not the mowing. Why don't we move that into the number 7 maintenance update, Richard, so that we can
Sure.
finish the budget. But you're right. I went out there also and did the same thing.
Yeah, and I can give you guys a little perspective from our side as well in regard to that segmented circle.
Okay, yeah, go ahead, Sarah, with the budget.
Okay, so right now, as it stands, we are almost 71% expended out of the city airport budget. I gave you a brief synopsis here. There is a link to actual expense reports. Most of that is on salaries, very little maintenance or repair budget. Our grants have been able to absorb some of that. I can further discuss it during maintenance updates. But as you can see here, $109,360 was appropriated. We've expended $77,194.77. So we're at about 71% expended. That will definitely get us through the rest of November and December when the new budget is allocated. Other grant funding. We have approximately $6,000 remaining in the 2020 airport COVID-19 allocation of grants from FAA of $22,000. If you recall, some of our salaries have been claimed under that, and then maintenance repairs of the fence, other small items, door repair, of course, that has been absorbing those costs instead of the city budget. And we did that kind of a trade for trade. It absorbed some of the salaries, which was an allowable cost, which then further allowed us to move forward with the hangar development studies that could potentially further be imposed on new lessees instead of the city absorbing those costs. That's just something we need to work out as we move forward, because the city spent about $10,000 to do a category exclusion report, which ensures that where we were developing those hangars were not environmentally impacted. We weren't encroaching in wetlands. It wasn't culture. It wasn't of cultural importance, etc. And then we also had to do the 7460 reports. Now those expenses, talking to Century West, can be imposed on the lessees versus the entity absorbing those costs. But moving forward, as we did this last year and the year prior, we needed to come up with a plan and come up with a plan quick. So we absorb those costs in the city budget and traded out salaries of any maintenance repairs and myself into the grant. And that was an allowable cost because the grant will not absorb development or capital expenses. So we still have about $6,000 left of that $22,000. We have still the $20,000 and $9,000 airport COVID-19 funds remaining for maintenance repairs and to combat COVID-19. Again, no capital budgets, no development. So for example, any costs that we should incur to, as long as it doesn't exceed $5,000 to repair the segmented circle, can be applied to those with no impact to the city budget. And that's what that funding is there to do. It's to relieve like the general fund budget and the impacts of COVID-19.
Okay, thanks, Sarah. Richard, do you have anything on the budget?
No.
Yeah, I'm clear too, Sarah.
Okay, let me take a look at the agenda. Item number 7, maintenance update. Bill reached out to me to let me know that the camera was down. Lee could not repair it or find find out what was wrong with it. Lee is our IT person here internally within the city. So he recommended that we order another one. I did find one at Lee's recommendation and get it ordered, but currently it's on back order and they're not expecting it to be shipped out until closer to the end of this month. So the camera will be coming. We also had our beacon light was out and Bill had attempted to fix that. Unfortunately, he couldn't get it open because of some corrosion. So Lee and John Wagner went out, replaced the beacon lights, said we needed a different kind of light bulb. I'm working directly with John to ensure, but right now that beacon light is working. But I'm working with John to ensure that we order the correct light bulbs from here on out. I don't know if we had a stockpile somewhere in the electric building or something, but we just need to order a different kind of bulb. And every 6 months, he's going to go out and maintain it. He just asked that I send him a reminder every 6 months because something in there needs to be checked or cleaned or something. So
sounds like it has a leak into the system somehow.
Potentially.
Yeah.
So he's going to keep his eye on it for us, and should it need to be replaced, it would be absorbed into one of those grant budgets that are for maintenance and repairs.
Okay.
Sarah, who is doing that?
John Wagner, he is in our public works department.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And what I was going to speak to as in regard to the segmented circle is that we have been extremely short-staffed, although John is hiring new additional staff. You know, we paid overtime to have the street crew come out and mow the airport this last year because they were so inundated with work and trying to keep the streets mowed, and with a mower down and short staffing, they had to utilize overtime in order to mow the run or the airport. So I am trying to get someone out there to weed eat and mow. But I think what would behoove us is if we set a time aside, and I gave them a deadline and told them, you know, we need to go out here and repair the segmented circle per our WASDOT walkthrough, our 5010 inspection last summer, and tell them we plan on going out there on this date. So please have it mowed or weeded the week prior.
Sarah,
and they
John,
Sarah,
Oh, I'm sorry, Richard, for interrupting you, but Sarah, I don't see any need to repair the segmented circle. What I see a need to do is paint it because from the air, it'll look fine. The problem, as Richard brought up, was even I went out there several months ago and did the same thing. I mean, the weeds are coming up between the segments, and the inner grass looks like it hasn't been mowed in a long time.
Well, the 5010 inspection identified that there were crumbling edges around the segmented circle pieces. Is that not what you have observed?
Well, yes, there is some crumbling parts on it, but I just, I think the important thing is to get the segmented circle painted.
Well, it was the 5010 recommendation to repair the crumbling pieces and paint it. So whether or not the committee wants to do that or not, that's fine, but our maintenance crew could do that. I just want to ensure that we're staying in compliance with WASDOT aviation.
What's the schedule through maintenance like these days?
It's pretty busy.
That's
and
what
then now we're getting into wet season.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's kind of a temporary thing, Sarah. The important thing, I think John is right. Painting it is a lot more important than fixing the cracks in it and the crumbling edges. I know that has to be done if it's on the 5010, but it's not urgent. John is correct. You can see it from the air if it's painted.
Okay.
It seems to me that putting a vegetation killer, a grass killer around that would go a long way towards solving the problem. You know, mowing it is a never-ending thing. Weed whacking it, you know, it's 3 months later, it's all grown up again. But if some sort of a grass killer was put around the circle, that would keep the problem at bay for, you know, a year at a time. Might pass that on to John Wagner.
Sure, I can absolutely mention that on to him, and it would assist us, and it would alleviate his crew for just a little bit more of an extended period.
But for right now, just to slap a coat of paint on it, that's good enough for now.
Yes, I agree with
Okay.
Richard, Sarah. Mainly, also, if we put paint on it, the fact that weeds are growing up around it isn't going to obliterate the circle from the air.
Okay,
I mean, the thing is almost invisible right now.
sure. Sure, I will definitely contact maintenance in regard to that.
Sarah, I haven't been in the cabinet or in the electrical room to see how much paint we have left. Do you happen to know?
The last time I had heard, we had over a 5-gallon bucket still remaining. I thought we had a 5-gallon bucket and a portion of another. So I can go out there and double check.
Richard, you haven't checked, have you?
No, I haven't.
I don't know whether 5 gallons will be enough. The circle is pretty big when you actually start walking it.
It's a lot bigger than I expected, yeah.
Ditto.
And that's all I have on maintenance today.
Okay,
Looks like Stuart. Hi, Stuart.
Good. Hi, can you hear me this time?
Yes.
Yep,
That's amazing. All right.
hi, Stuart.
How's it
Stuart,
going?
you're just in time. We are on item number 8, revocation of RC Flyer agreement. I know I passed information in regard to that around. I believe I may have spoken about it when I met with John and Richard at the last committee meeting, but I don't know if those timelines coincide. So just to start off, if you haven't already heard the story, this came to fruition because we had the RC flyers on the pavement, on the apron, after I've been instructed several times that we cannot have anyone but active planes on that facility. I went and spoke to them, and I was made aware of a situation where one of the RC Flyer committee members had told me that their plane had to take a nosedive for an incoming plane, that they crashed their plane, and he wanted to know who was liable for that and who was going to pay for that. Now, I think his question was more facetious and hypothetical than
Let's hope so.
than actually, because the reality is per their agreement and per the Aeronautical Association of Model Aircraft, I believe it is, they are liable. They're required to carry insurance. They must give way to any manned aircraft. And his reiteration was that that airplane did not follow the correct flight pattern.
Well,
And
a couple things on that, and just to cut off, and I understand all these things you're coming. I apologize for interrupting, but maybe just to get to where I wanted, what I wanted to be on here for. But there is no exception. They have to give way to manned aircraft, period, the end. That's just the rules of the world. As it was stated, I hope he was being facetious about who was liable for the damage to their aircraft. And as far as the being on the tarmac and stuff, again, needs to be rules that they use it by. The reason I wanted it, and I'll get this out there, and maybe we'll finish the conversation or
Sure.
over with. One, I'm a firm believer on the local people getting, the local residents being able to use the airport as much as possible. And in my mind, having the RC Flyers utilize it, that was a local group getting use out of it. I felt, and I still feel like that's a good thing. Anyway, that enough said on that. That's my personal opinion and my position. The other part of this question is you had cited a FAA, I think it was procedures manual, not an FAR, but a
Sure.
procedures manual. And the specific citation led to a
Definition. Yes.
definitions, yes.
Mhm.
And the definition involved said, the following is a list of aviation usages for airports. and it gave a list of all that stuff. But the second sentence said, these are not exclusive, and these are not the only aviation usages of airports.
Well,
And then it gave this list, which by those two, by what they were saying, those were examples. Are possible examples. So whoever was citing that to you from the FAA, I wanted to, I guess, put a word of caution. The FAA people, as nice as any one individual may or may not be, they don't always know exactly wherefore they speak. I have had personal encounters with the FAA where they were trying to enforce something that just flat out wasn't there. But the guy.
well,
trying to
Stu,
enforce
I'm
it-
gonna, we only
Go
have
ahead.
4 more minutes left of this room. So before you proceed any further, and I'm sorry to interrupt you as well, but I spoke to someone all the way at the Washington DC level who is in charge of unmanned aircraft. His office is specifically for unmanned aircraft under the FAA. And he told us we were well within our right to eliminate the RC Flying Club from flying at the airport unless they schedule it for an event during an event that the airport is hosting. So the
yes,
city is
you
not
are
in
within your
any
right.
way deterring, the city is not any way deterring the model aircraft club. That we have offered them, you know, we don't have any right to restrict them in anywhere else within the city unless, you know, it's a concern about privacy or insurance or affecting safety of others, so they can utilize other parks. I see from their Facebook page that they have found 2 other locations to fly that are more conducive and fit within the parameters of the airport. So the airport, I spoke to our legal representation, the FAA legal representation, our airport district officer. I spoke to a gentleman, and I'll have to get his name because I don't recall it. It was David something at the Washington DC level. And I spoke to somebody at the Academy of or Association of Model Aeronautics. So I have definitely done my due diligence to find, and when we sign those grant assurances, we ensure safety. When we hear about here at the city level, city administrator, the mayor, from not only the person who was there participating in the recreation itself by almost colliding with the plane, but the pilot of the plane contacted me as well. So from city administration themselves, we will not allow RC flyers back at the airport. And we cannot utilize it. I understand you want the locals to be able to utilize the airport, but because we sign those grant assurances and take money from FAA almost every year, we are in perpetuity for now the next, 20 years by following their, every time we take their money by following their regulations. And it cannot be utilized for non-aeronautical purposes. So people walking their dogs, we have to find an alternative with Department of Fish and Wildlife for people hunting because they don't respect the boundaries of the airport. They walk right through. They don't go around the parameter of the runway like they should. There's a million things that we have to address, but unfortunately with the safety issue that was most prevalent there, and being reported to me, I had to do my due diligence and
Sarah?
follow up on this.
John,
I'm not,
Stuart, this is, we're on a short tether here because we only have a half hour for the meeting before it terminates. And it needs to be said, Sarah, that that's Stuart's opinion, personal opinion, is
Sure.
all it is. It is not the opinion of this committee at this point. I think we ought to go ahead and, is there anything else on the RC thing, Sarah, from your point of view that needs to be covered?
No, I had spoken to the previous chairman. I think he has since stepped down, and I think they nominated a new chairman. But for the attacks that one of the committee committee members made on me and sent me some
Agreed.
nasty grams. He apologized, the chairman apologized profusely and said he was more than willing to work with us. So it was actually a very good outcome. We had a good conversation. They were able to find alternative locations, and we won't stop from hosting an event, you know, should they want to do a demonstration, a flight demonstration. We just have
Yeah,
to get
thank you,
prior
Sarah.
approval.
It does sound like you did your due diligence there, and I agree. I don't want one of those Model RC airplanes coming through my windshield.
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
That can't be allowed at all, and there's, and I have no, you know, beef with, you know, Sarah exercising
Sure.
her authority on this situation. It is the city's airport, okay, not somebody else's. And we are, of course, under the FAA's heel for, what did you say, 2,000 years?
Yeah.
for taking their
Every
money.
20 years, yes, sir.
20 years, okay. I know it was a 2 and a 0 or something. Anyhow, my biggest statement or concern here is that what they cited to you as their reasoning for their position just flat out wasn't correct. It's an incorrect citation. And I've had enough.
Stuart,
faith
I think,
with the FAA
Stuart, I
that-
think in order to stick with the agenda, I really think we need to put that on the agenda for the next meeting.
that maybe I'll be here on time.
No, I wasn't faulting your time arrival time. I think we're out of time, Sarah.
We are, and thank you so much, Sarah, for hosting us. I appreciate you getting us in. I know you're very busy. And we can further discuss, if you guys want to send me agenda items, I'll start gathering them now. We can hold a special meeting next month if you prefer, but we really have to let Sarah go. She has to be out of there at 2, and we got her 2 minutes past.
Well,
Okay, thanks, Sarah,
both,
both
Sarah.
of you. Thanks,
Thank you,
Richard. Thanks,
gentlemen. I
Stuart.
will be in touch very soon.
All right,
I'll
thanks,
follow
Sarah.
up with documentation.
Thank you.
all right.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.